Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. David Orman, and welcome to this week's episode of The Wellness Shot for November 3rd. Today's topic, sometimes I have to search for a topic, sometimes they just present themselves. Scalar waves, frequencies, and my conversations with the dead guy. Do I have your attention yet? So I went to a particular lecture this past Saturday at a room where they have what's called scalar waves. It so it's a regular room, and they have a bunch of computer screens that look like maybe about 20 inches or so. Nothing dramatic. And there were maybe about 30, 35 screens all around the top of the building. And if you look at the top of the room, I should say, and if you look at them, it looks like there's code, gobbledygook code going down very, very fast, or else slowly, and going up and going down, etc. And there were colors on there that were very vivid: lime green, fluorescent pink, purples, etc. And they released what they call scalar waves. The concept of scalar waves has been around thousands of years, but it was named and discovered, let's say, by Nikola Tesla back in the 50s. And these waves are kind of interesting because they can pass through objects without losing any of their integrity, which is sort of unusual for waves. Most waves, sound waves, for example, have a tendency to bounce off. That's why you hear echo, echo, echo. That would be considered the wave bouncing off. But these can go through virtually anything, including the human body. And when it does, it actually produces some actually significant medicinal gains. It reduces inflammation. It helps the cells to regenerate. So there's anti-aging activity to it. There's immune boosting activity to it. There is enhanced energy production and a number of other things. And what I liked about it is you can be in this room, you don't feel a thing. It's not, like infrared, you feel the warmth. You do not feel a thing. And you need to go a number of times to notice a difference. But according to the presenters, they had quite a bit of information where they had what would be considered very dramatic healings from horrible diseases, cancers and things along those lines. I do not know of anyone who has healed from that using this particular method, but I do know from experience that scalar waves work very well. Here's the interesting thing. You don't need to go to a room and sit in front of 50 computer screens or what have you to get these particular waves. You can do it a number of ways. Now, this is just my opinion. There are apps on the phones that you can set to particular frequencies, which will match that. That's okay. But the sounds that your body produces. So I have taught the Bagua and the sacred sounds. In fact, I'm having a course released in the next couple of weeks on that you can make with movement that will produce scalar waves in the body. And what the scalar waves do with this movement and sound is release stem cells, which is where everything is pointing to these days. The more stem cells that can be released, particularly from a natural source, which is your own body, the healthier a person's going to be. Plus, it'll save you, $30,000 or so in a trip to Mexico or Panama or other places. Um, so there are, in my opinion, better, safer, and just as, if not more effective ways of doing that. But it was good information. They also talked about, I'm looking at my notes here. They also talked about hydrogen water, which is, again, this has been around a while. It's starting to become more popular as more and more research comes out. And hydrogen water basically, and you could get water bottles on Amazon, I don't know, like $30, $50, something like that, that will actually create hydrogen water, hydrogenate the water, so to speak. And what that does is reduce inflammation, increase energy production. It protects the cells from any type of oxidation damage, which means the immune system will be elevated, the skin will improve, vision can improve. And overall wellness is the crux of it. Brain health will actually improve with that, and it tastes like, it looks like it's water, but basically that has extra hydrogen, so to speak, within it. They also talked there were two speakers. This is the scientist. I'll get to the dead guy in a second. The scientist, she was talking about the use of trace minerals, and that's something I've been saying for the last 20 years. The soil is stripped of trace minerals. What are trace minerals? They're tiny tiny amounts of particular minerals that nobody could spell, like molybdenum and other ones like copper and manganese, that the body only needs small amounts, but if it doesn't get that amount, and it can create some major problems. And unless you're growing your own food in the mountains of Tibet, it's virtually impossible. Even within organic food and organic vegetables, it's still very difficult to get in the system. Supplementation is the only way. There are a number of supplements. The Probably the best is a liquid type of trace mineral. Having said that, it is the most god awful. If you ever wondered what a thermometer might taste like, that's what trace minerals taste like. And they have liquid trace minerals taste like, and they have a tendency to burn. My suggestion, I like the ones from a company that I've had an account with for years called Standard Process. They make a great trace mineral. That would be the one I'd recommend. It is fantastic for increasing energy production, promoting hormonal balance. It is fantastic for keeping the integrity of the skeletal system. So people who have frail bones, it is an absolute must. And what else? It helps to strengthen and improve the functioning of the nerves and of the muscles. And you can tell when you don't have enough trace minerals when you hear this. Number one, leaving the diabetic, those who have been diagnosed with diabetes aside, I drink a lot of water, yet I'm still thirsty. That's always an indicator of trace mineral deficiency. Trace mineral is fantastic. It is an absolute must. Those were the major themes. And again, this some of it was a little new, a little bit different twist, but it wasn't this dynamic the way I had expected. But some people listening now may not have heard this, so this is where it's helpful. Now, I feel like I need a drum roll, and there's a drum kit right over there, but I'll hold off on that. There is a gentleman named Daniel Brinkley. I would encourage you to get his book. It's something Into the Light or Something the Light. It came out in the early 70s, but the re reissued in 1993, I think it was, and updated. And oh man, talk about bad luck. He had three near-death experiences, including the first one where he was hit by lightning. And it was so powerful that whatever was metal in his boot welded to whatever was metal on the floor. That was the power of it. And it took 2 years to recover. Sometime between, and he was clinically dead for, I think it was 28 minutes or 30 minutes, somewhere around that area. And when he was clinically dead, he had these amazing experiences. These, what he called angels or guides, gave him 5 boxes, which were predictions of the future. And essentially, what he said is about 97% of what he was told has come to fruition. And as it relates to health, I'll leave the other stuff to your imagination or go get the book. When it comes to health, he predicted that there would be a stripping of the soil and an issue with toxins. And with Roundup and other types of sprays, those things are a disaster. And if they're in your system, you must get rid of them. And I'll do a video next week on how to do that. He also talked about the amount of nutrition that has been systematically taken out of food. So for example, if you ate an apple in 1990, you would have to eat 30 years ago or so. You would have to eat 24 and a quarter apples to get the same amount of nutrition that you got in one apple today. So those I remember my parents saying, "Yeah, my dad's in particular, your mom cooks so well, you don't need anything." That may have been the case, but today, supplementation, herbal medicine, correct, precise herbal medicine, and correct, precise nutrition is an absolute must. If you're just taking a one a day or something like that, I promise you that is not doing you anything. But that was the major thing. The second thing is two other things I want to mention. Frequency matters. And so our thoughts matter. So we're essentially, we are constantly programming our thoughts via the water. 75, 80% of the body is water. And the things that we say, both externally as well as internal dialogue, gets imprinted on the water. And that's builds up over time and becomes a theme in life. I just know I'm going to get sick. It's that time of year I'm going to get sick. Lo and behold, you get sick. Were you destined to get sick? No, you programmed yourself. And again, I'll be doing much more detailed clips on that. And last but not least, this is a great one. And he has said it, and the ancient masters have said it, and other people such as myself have said it. There is a gentleman named Joe Dispenza that has done the science on it and basically modernized what ancient masters have said. And basically, we have it's been estimated that we have 10 trillion cells, and each one of those 10 trillion cells is imprinted with the blueprint of perfection. So when somebody says, "Are you perfect?" There isn't a human being on the planet that would say yes. And they're both right and wrong. The yes part is we know. We make 110 mistakes before our first cup of coffee in the morning. But there is that perfection within us, and it's imprinted on each of the blueprints. And when we can get the static, so to speak, out of the way and allow that blueprint to be turned on and allow it to do its thing, that's when the magic and miracles, so to speak, start to happen. That's when not only do we have the dramatic, this person was diagnosed with a horrible disease, pancreatic cancer, and they have a month to live. And that was 25 years ago, as well as, everybody else got sick, but, I'm as healthy as can be. And despite everybody in my family getting sick, from the worst of the worst to annoying, and everywhere and anywhere in between. And again, as time goes on, I'm going to do in much more detail about that. Also, if anyone wants to work with me one-on-one with that, that is available. It is a deep passion of mine. I've been studying this for 30 years, and it's time to release it much more so. So anyway, that was my experience with talking to a dead guy. Uh, if you have topics, if you have questions, write them below. If not, I will see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening.